good morning. Welcome to Community Voice. I am your host, Josh Engel. Today we have Robert Bob Smith in the studio with us today. Bob Smith is running in a special election to the Georgia State Senate to represent District 30. He is on the ballot in the special general election on February 13th, currently running against Democrat Ashley Godwin, Republican Tim Bearden, and Republican Renee Bell. Bob Smith received his bachelor's degree from Iowa State University and has served as the CEO of Lee Brass for 7 years and served 9 years as CEO of GNC Foundry. Bob is married to his wife, Lynn, and they have 4 adult sons and 7 grandchildren. We are live streaming today on our WLBB Facebook page, so we encourage listeners, we encourage voters to hop on. Any questions that you may have for our guest, I'd be proud to read those out, and I'm looking forward to a great conversation. Bob, good morning, sir.
Good morning. Thank you for having me on.
Of course, it's a pleasure. Thank you for taking the time. If we could, let's talk about you. Tell us a bit about your story. What has happened that has throughout your life? You know, where did you grow up, and that has brought you to this point today?
Okay, but before we get started, I want to remember the 3 fellow Georgians that lost their lives a couple days ago in service to our country over in the Middle East. Specialist Moffitt, Specialist Sanders, and here from Carrollton, Sergeant Rivers.
Devastating.
We honor their lives and remember their service and comfort their families. You know, one of our sons did 2 tours in Iraq, and he received a Bronze Star for some of his actions. So we're pretty proud of him, but nothing. I just can't imagine the devastation that those families are facing.
That had to hit you so hard, having had a son that served.
There's a lot of anxiety when they're over there. He was a military intelligence person, and so he would send an email and say, "Hey, if you don't hear anything from me for a couple of weeks, don't worry." But he came back, and these 3 aren't coming back, so that's very heartening. A little about me, as you mentioned, my wife and I, we've lived in Villa Rica for 16 years. We have 4 grown sons. They all live out of state, and we have 7 grandchildren. I was born in Iowa. My dad moved around, my family moved around somewhat. We kind of had some humble beginnings, and so he moved around looking for a better life, and we ended up in Tupelo, Mississippi. While I was in school, I had a teacher that really influenced me, and that teacher helped me get a scholarship to Iowa State University. And I graduated there with a double major in general business and political science. I actually was planning on going to law school, since I didn't have much money, I'd worked part time in a local manufacturing business, a foundry business there. And so when I was getting ready to graduate, the owner came to me and said, "Hey, I know somebody that needs a really good guy to start as an entry-level supervisor. Would you be interested in looking at that job?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, I think I'll go to law school, but let me check it out." Well, I was tired of being broke, and I wanted to get married, so I started working. And I said, "I'll go to law school later." And 40 years later, I ended up being in the founder business.
Well, there's always next year for law school. Just try it out.
Yeah, really. But I really enjoyed it. I soon found out that I was good at it, and I enjoyed the challenge of it. There's some black magic in that business, so I spent my career there. I worked my way up from the bottom, from an entry-level supervisor all the way to the CEO. And one of the companies I was at, we had over 2,000 people. Pretty substantial. One of the things I spent a lot of time on was leadership. I believe very strongly in servant leadership. I've done a lot of courses with that. Also put a lot of that into action. Of course, I went through the School of Hard Knocks, and also found time to get an executive MBA from Auburn University. So that's kind of, my history a little bit. I've lived in I think 4 or 5 different states. But I love Georgia, and this is our home.
Excellent resume, excellent backstory. I mean, you've clearly done a lot and capable of doing even more. Traveled and worked in these leadership positions. What brought you now to possibly run in this election? What's the motivation there?
So look, and I guess I kind of want to tell a bit about what really got me motivated. I've always been interested in politics. My wife and I have been active in like the Tea Party stuff or other things. In 2020, when I went to vote in the presidential election, they told me I'd already mailed in a ballot, and I had not mailed in a ballot. They allowed me to put in a provisional vote, but I really don't know which one counted. I have a feeling I know who I voted for, and it wasn't who I wanted to vote for. But that motivated me to get much more involved. I was winding when I worked part-time as a manufacturing consultant. So I was always working 60, 80 hours a week, and I really never had time for politics. So now all of a sudden that I'm semi-retired, I have time. So I started to investigate the election integrity movements and things like that. That was part of my motivation to get involved in and I've always been a conservative, a Republican, although more of a constitutional conservative person than anything else. And then when like your viewers can't see, but I'm wearing a free Trump.
We're on camera. If you're on the live stream, there you go. Throw it at the camera there.
I'm wearing a free Trump shirt. And when that happened, I think it was last summer, I called some of our representatives, to see what they were going to do about it. Because, this is a terrible travesty of justice. And all they wanted to do was talk about it. They made it clear to me that, they weren't going to do anything about it. They were just going to see how it went. And one of them told me that, well, it'll eventually be overturned in the courts if anything really happens. But they didn't want to get involved in it. And that was that's also part of my motivation while I'm running. I think you have to stand up when you see something that's clearly an abuse of power and say, hey, this needs to stop. And what can I do, as a state senator or state representative to correct this situation? And it was clear to me that too many Republicans, did not want to get involved in it. So that really motivated me.
With your background and experience, did you, when you first got to know, learn more about President Trump, did you feel a connection with him in that way, working your way up?
Yeah, one of the things that really attracted me to President Trump was from the beginning, he talked about China and foreign trade. And, in the industry that I spent my career in the foundry industry, and we call that iron, but it's aluminum and brass and other metals, but it's casting a metal. And that business has been under a tremendous attack from unfair competition using basically slave labor in China. I've been to China. I've seen, people in pajamas and barefoot pouring molten metal. And if somebody gets hurt, there's another 100 waiting to get in there to do the job. And the Chinese understand that the basis of every modern industrial society is iron and steel, foundries and steel mills. And if you ever need to fight a war, you better have iron, you better have foundries and steel mills. And what Trump got so quickly was that the United States has been, and he says idiots, maybe that's a strong word, but we've let some of our key businesses go over to China. And in the business that I was in, it shrunk by 90% because there was no way we could compete with those people. They could import things at about half the price that we can make them. They don't have any healthcare costs. They don't have any lawyers over there. I think the number, there's more lawyers in Indianapolis than there is in China. So they're not facing lawsuits. They're not facing the EPA. I mean, when you go over there, the smoke is so deep you have to wear a mask some days just to breathe. We've run that business, a lot of that business out of the United States for pollution concerns, and it goes over to China where there's no pollution. So it could have been made in the United States at, let's say, 1 unit of pollution, but now it's being made in China at 10 units of pollution. So maybe the air is cleaner in this country, in this little area, but for the whole world, it's terrible. But going back to Trump, but that's one of the things that really attracted me to Trump. Also, when Trump became president, he actually did the things the Republicans talked about. He made sure we had a strong defense and we were respected around the world. He didn't start any new wars. He got a tax cut that was good for the economy. I know they say it's good for the billionaires, but it really helped everybody. And then he also enforced our immigration laws. Look what's happening now on the border. Trump, the laws are there. All you got to do is enforce them. And also, he reduced regulation on business, and he also he drilled, allowed oil and natural gas, and in general he gave us more freedom. So Trump has some rough edges, but I think he did a fantastic job as president. He didn't talk. He took action. And that's the kind of a person I want to be. If I'm elected, I will not just talk, I will take action.
Time is 8:42. We're going to go and take our first commercial break. But when we come back, we will continue our conversation with Bob Smith, running in a special election to the Georgia State Senate to represent District 30. Remember, early voting going on now. Special election is on February 13th. Community Voice brought to you by Tanner Health System and Oak Mountain Academy.
Health is a journey. It's making better choices, even when it's not easy. It's taking care of yourself and the people you love. At Tanner Health System, we're there for you with every step, with primary care, heart care, cancer care, women's care, orthopedics, surgical services, and so much more. We're dedicated to helping you live and feel your best. So let's get on that journey to health. You've got places to be for many years to come. Find us at tanner.org.
Oak Mountain Academy is an innovative school celebrating over 62 years of academic excellence. I'm Patrick Huran, head of school, inviting you to join us for our 36th annual Spring Gala, Saturday evening at 5. Join us for a silent and live auction, cocktail hour, dinner, and dancing. This great Gatsby-themed celebration will be held at the Lions Hill Vineyard in Bremen and is an event not to be missed. For more information, visit us at oakmountain.us. Discover your journey at OMA. Prepare, explore, and achieve.
We're back to Community Voice. Today's Wednesday, January 31st, and I am your host, Josh Engel. We're sitting down with Robert Bob Smith. Bob is running in a special election to the Georgia State Senate to represent District 30. He's on a ballot in a special general election on February 13th. Going to be running against Democrat Ashley Godwin, as well as Republicans Tim Beard and Renee Bell. Sir, we're in the second segment here. Let's talk about issues. I know that voters, our listeners who are tuning in, they're going to want to really hear from you the things that you're going to be focusing on and the things that or issues that you are most motivated to tackle.
Okay, as I mentioned before, I'm really interested in election integrity. I've bought some pretty sophisticated companies, and when I say I, that should be a we. Some pretty sophisticated computer systems. But we wouldn't buy a black box like what we used to vote on. We'd want to know how it worked, and we'd want to be allowed to go inside and take a look at it. And when you look at the machines that we use to vote on, they're basically black boxes. They're needlessly complicated, and they are programmable because they've said that, we programmed that wrong, and this person really won that election. So I'm in favor of, and I will work very hard to eliminate the voting machines and go to a paper ballot. I also don't understand why we don't know who won the election that night instead of taking days. We have these computer machines now that are supposed to make things faster and better, but now it takes days for us to find out who won what election. So that doesn't make any sense to me. And the third thing is mail-in ballots. I'm old enough to remember because I used to travel at work sometimes, and I might be out of town for an election, and I would have to go and get a ballot an absentee ballot, and because I think it's incumbent on people to do that. Now, if there are situations where you can't get out of the house and things like that, so should be exceptions, but it shouldn't be a universal thing. Voting is a tremendous privilege. I'm in favor of making Election Day a holiday, a national holiday, and having a one-day voting and paper ballots, and we know who won. Of course, we need an ID. You have to use an ID for literally everything else in your life. So, I don't see what's the big deal about a voting ID. So that's an important thing to me, because of what happened to me as well. Also, in Georgia here, I think we should eliminate our state income tax. The state has a $16 billion surplus. So there's for one thing, then that's clear where, and they're talking about reducing it. But, our neighbors to the, over up in Tennessee, and my son lives in Nashville, and they don't have an income tax. And our neighbors in Florida have figured out how to eliminate their income tax. So there's different ways to do it. I'm in favor of what's called a fair tax, which is really a consumption tax. And if there's some really low income people, maybe there's a way to rebate them back to that kind of thing, because we want to be fair to people. But what I like about the fair tax is it's basically if you consume more, you pay more. So therefore, the people that spend more or have more money are going to pay more of the tax. So I think that's something. If we had leadership, strong leadership, and not talking about it, but people that want to get it done, and I will stand up to get it done. Also, I want to talk about school choice. I'm definitely in favor of the money following the student, or a voucher system. That doesn't have to be real complicated, but I think every student in Georgia deserves an opportunity to go to the school of their choice. And the easiest way to do that is to give them a voucher, and then they can parents can decide what school is best for their student. In business, I'm a businessman. I know competition makes this better. And I am sure that in competition in the educational system will make you better as well. So those are three of the things that I want to highlight. I also have been going around and meeting with some of the city police chiefs and sheriffs. So I strongly support law enforcement. And I've been listening to what they're telling me. What's the most important thing for them. And so when things come up like fentanyl or any kind of issue that involves the police, I will reach out to people who I would consider subject expert matters, and for their input on because even though I support the police, I've never been a policeman, and I don't walk in their shoes, so I want to be aware of that. And I'm a strong supporter of the Second Amendment. I'm an NRA member. I think constitutional carry is a good thing. I think if you have the Second Amendment, you're a citizen. If you don't have the Second Amendment, you are a serf. It's pretty simple.
So we got a question that came in here. Let's see here. It is, if the special election had not come along, would you have challenged Mike Dugan for this seat? In other words, how do you feel about Dugan's representation as District 30 Senator?
I think Mike did a pretty good job. So be honest with you, I probably would not have challenged Mike Dugan. Fighting an incumbent is very hard. They have all the advantages of incumbency. One of the things that's happening right now in this election is there is outside special interest money coming into this election. I think it's very important where the money is coming from that supports your candidates. I can tell people right now, I'm not taking any money from any special interest groups or lobbyists. My money is coming from friends, family, and supporters. There are things going on right now, and you can tell where the money's coming by. Take a look at the information you get from the candidate. If look at if you get a mailer, take a look at where the postage is. It'll tell you. I know one of the mailers I got said it was from Bullseye Public Affairs, and so I looked him up. The main principal of that guy, that organization there in Florida, and looks like they're a group that's in favor of casino gambling, amongst other things. But the principal is a guy named Henry Barber, and he is a Trump hater. He's got tweets up right now, about how terrible Trump is. So I think it's important that we know where the money's coming from. But incumbency is a real advantage. This is a pretty Republican district. So I think if you're a Republican incumbent here, you have a definite advantage, and it would be really hard to take somebody on.
Time is 8:51. We're going to go take our last commercial break. And when we come back, we'll wrap up our conversation with Bob Smith, running in a special election to the Georgia State Senate to represent District 30 against Democrat Ashley Godwin, Republicans Tim Bearden, and Renee Bell. Early voting is going on now. Again, the special election will be on February 13th. So, stay with us. We'll be right back. Community Voice brought to you by Tanner Health System and Oak Mountain Academy.
Health is a journey. It's making better choices, even when it's not easy. It's taking care of yourself and the people you love. At Tanner Health System, we're there for you with every step, with primary care, heart care, cancer care, women's care, orthopedics, surgical services, and so much more. We're dedicated to helping you live and feel your best. So let's get on that journey to health. You've got places to be for many years to come. Find us at tanner.org.
Oak Mountain Academy is an innovative school celebrating over 62 years of academic excellence. I'm Patrick Huran, head of school, inviting you to join us for our 36th annual Spring Gala Saturday evening at 5. Join us for a silent and live auction, cocktail hour, dinner, and dancing. This great Gatsby-themed celebration will be held at the Lions Hill Vineyard in Bremen and is an event not to be missed. For more information, visit us at oakmountain.us. Discover your journey at OMA. Prepare, explore, and achieve.
And welcome back to Community Voice. I'm your host, Josh Engel. Today's Wednesday, January 31st, and our guest is Robert Bob Smith. Bob received his bachelor's degree from Iowa State University, served as CEO of Lee Brass for 7 years, served 9 years as the CEO of GNC Foundry, and now he is running in a special election for the Georgia State Senate to represent District 30. He's on the ballot in the special general election, which will be held on February 13th. All right. Well, and don't forget, everyone tuning in, we are live streaming on our WLBB Facebook page. So if you have any last-minute questions or comments for Mr. Smith, feel free to throw those in the comments. Be happy to read those out. And also the podcast of this episode, which will be uploaded to this station's website, as well as gradacommunications.com, can be shared on your socials as well. Be sure to go back and listen to the full story. Bob, let's chat about your Georgia business plan.
Okay. I think people in Georgia, our business climate is really probably better than some places because we have Republicans, pretty much in control. I think Governor Kemp has done a really good job in that area. There's a few other things I'm not so agreement with him on, but when it comes to business, I think he's done a good job. My business plan, and being a business person, I would put a strong emphasis on this as well. As I think these things would really help business in Georgia. And, number one being tort reform. As a business person, you face a form of lawfare that is, the lawyers there's predators out there, and they know it's much cheaper to settle than it is to fight it. If we went to some kind of loser pay system, that would take a huge burden. It's like a tax on business. The consumer ends up paying for it. So I would do that. I think it's also important we address the skilled labor shortage. I know when I was running some companies, we were always looking for skilled people, especially CAD people or CAM or robotics people, electricians, welders, things like that. The business I was at, we would even pay employees to go get those skills. And I think that's something that could really set Georgia apart, is if we have a really good system of technical schools here, And if we, the way it was done in business, and I think State of Georgia could follow suit, is if you successfully complete a semester of, let's say, CAD, then we will reimburse you, and then now you got money to pay for the next semester, and so on and so forth. As long as you successfully complete it, you can end up getting paid for your whole thing, for your whole tuition. I'd finance that with some kind of fee on. We have a port that has all these containers coming in from China, and I would put a fee on there to help finance that. I also think it's important, healthcare costs to every business. We continually put more of the burden on the employees for healthcare because it's so expensive. So I'd like to see much more increased competition, maybe some removal of some antitrust kind of things where you could have business pools or out of state competition, those kind of things. I also think it's important, if Georgia wants to really stand out in the future, is to stop the greening of the electric power sources. There's going to come a time, if we continue, there won't be enough power. And in the business I was in the metal business, power, that's one of our biggest costs and one of our biggest concerns. So I think I know a little bit about the power companies. And I would be interested in stopping them from going to windmills and solar, those kind of things, because those are all made in China. One of the foundries I ran, we were one of the best companies in America, in the United States, at large castings, and up on top of a windmill, that's what they are. All that's made in China. So I would stop that.
Excellent.
So that's really my business plan. I would appeal to people that I'm not doing this to be a politician. I'm not doing this to get the next office or to get an appointment from the governor. I think I'm doing this for the right reasons. I'm doing it because I want to serve the people of West Georgia. History and my personal experience have shown me that people live their best lives when they have the least amount of government. More government is usually not a good thing. My approach to legislation will be simple. If it reduces your freedom, I will be opposed to it. If it raises your taxes, I will be against it. And if it increases the size of government, I will be a no vote. If you're happy with lobbyists and special interests running campaigns and the way things are going, have been going down at the Capitol, then I'm probably not your guy. But if you want a leader that will stand up and get things done, not take special interest money, and work for what's best for the people of Georgia, then please vote for me. I have a website. It's called bobsmithforsenate.com. Please go there and learn more about me.
Bob, thank you so much for taking the time to come in, and best of luck in the campaign. Thank you to all who have tuned in. We'll see you next time.